Hi everyone, it's Rao Klein and you're watching another Supernatural review, and this is season 3, episode 3, Bad Day at Black Rock. If you're new here, I'm doing like a recap and review of every single episode of Supernatural, so let's get into it. So other than the pilot, I think this is the one episode I've watched the most, and the reason I've watched this episode the most is because when I try to show people Supernatural, this is the episode I show them. It's just kind of crazy. You're probably hearing them being like, what? Like either that doesn't make sense, or like, are you crazy? Or like, if you agree, like, are you still crazy? Because, you know, watching this, I'm like, I'm kind of crazy, and we'll get into it. But yeah, like so many people, when I try to watch them, you know, show them Supernatural, I mean, sometimes I do show the pilot, but a lot of times, like, I'll just show this episode because I feel like it's a good episode. Well, this is my reasoning behind it. It's like, it's a good episode where you can kind of like get to know the brothers, and it's like funny and stuff. But yeah, like, why was this episode I picked? Like, I don't know if maybe just like, I can't like remember everything in my life, but maybe there was like one time I was like, okay, I'm gonna show someone Supernatural, but like, I'm not gonna show them a pilot. Okay, let me think of an episode that I can show them. Maybe I did some research or something and I was like, okay, this could be a good episode. Like, I don't remember why. But this is multiple times, like at least 3 or 4, probably more, have I showed people this episode. Anyway, despite me showing this episode, or I should say watching this episode so many times, I'm like still surprised. Like, I forgot so many things, just so crazy, because I like the pilot, I feel like I know back in my mind, and so I feel like I watch this, like, I don't even know, I feel like, no, there's no way I could watch this more times than the pilot, right? But like, I feel like it's really up there, close to the pilot at least. And so the fact that like I forgot so many things, like I forgot Gordon's in this episode. I totally forgot that. And so he's like telling the guy to go out to sandwiches there, like that totally, like, I forgot about. Honestly, before watching this episode, I wasn't like, okay, these are the things I remember. I just like knew, like, obviously, like, I watched this episode so many times and I knew Bella was gonna be there, but I didn't like pinpoint things. And like, I don't know, maybe I should have, or I don't know, maybe I'm just like overthinking everything. But and I also forgot there's like this whole storage unit thing, and it's like, it's so interesting because like when you're watching just this random episode, the people are like, whatever, like the storage unit thing is like not that big of a deal. But like when you're analyzing these episodes and like going one after another, you're like, wow, there's a storage unit that their dad had. Like, this is a big deal. But like, if you're just watching this episode, like showing it to someone for the first time, or just like watching this episode, just like a random episode, like you don't really care about it, but like, wow, there's a storage unit. And so it's so crazy, like, that they never came back to the storage unit or like looked too much into it or like whatever. Something that always made me mad about this episode that I did remember, like always remember, is that the storage unit's in Buffalo. And then there's this one point where he's like, okay, Bella's in Queens, so I'm gonna go to Queens. And he says it's like 2-hour drive. It's not. It's not. I've never even been to Buffalo because it's so far. I went to school in Ithaca, which is like 4 hours. Okay, I live in Queens, by the way, so disclaimer. Obviously, I used to live in Manhattan, now I live in Queens. It's basically the same thing. But like, I never even been to Buffalo. Like, I went to school in Ithaca, and that's like a 4-hour drive. And then we would play Rochester in tennis. So I go to Rochester. That was like 2 more hours. So that's like 6 hours from the city. Buffalo is like another 3 hours. Buffalo is 9 hours from the city. So like, I always was like, that doesn't make sense. But you know, writers and like whatever, like they don't care about logical things like me. And so they were just like, we got to make it seem like it's not too much. So they say 2 hours, right? But rewatching this episode this time, I'm like, okay, the storage unit's in Buffalo, but then they like drive so much. Not drive so much. They drive. So what if they're just like driving closer to Queens? And like, I never realized that before. I just assumed they stayed in Buffalo. But what if they did not? What if they were actually like going more east? Like, what if that was really it? And like, I can't believe like this is my first time, because I've always been so mad about this element. This is my first time being like, wow, like they could have actually gotten closer. And it's something like I didn't think about. And honestly, like, maybe I'm wrong still and they were still in Buffalo, or maybe next time I rewatch it, because I'm sure I'm gonna rewatch Supernatural and at least this episode again in the future. So maybe I'll rewatch it then and I'll be like, no, they were still in Buffalo, or like whatever. Anyway, I just talked about that for a long time. But I think why maybe I showed this episode is just because it is really funny. Like, it's a funny concept. I feel like the writers, you know, came with this concept of like, you know, well, it's something that's in lore, and they like are coming, like season 3, like you really get into like really great episodes. So they have, you know, everyone knows Lucky Rabbit's Foot. And so they were like, okay, how can we have it be something with Lucky's Rabbit's Foot? Okay, like maybe someone steals it, and so then like one of the brothers has it, so Sam has it, he's the Lucky Rabbit's Foot, and all these like funny, like good things happen, but then it gets stolen from him, and all these bad things are happening, and he could die. Such a good episode, such a good episode. So I feel like that's probably why I show people. But I feel like this could still be like probably confusing to people if they watch it for the first, like this is their first episode of Supernatural. I feel like it's still confusing, like it doesn't give that much backstory. So you got like this Gordon guy that's there, and then you got this random new person, Bella, and then you got like Bobby, who's like in one scene like, yeah, you go get that money. Jim Beaver for being one scene where you're like on the phone. Yeah, we are introduced to Bella in this episode, and she does come again at least one more episode in season 3. So they knew what they were doing with her, bringing her in. And so like we had like Ruby in season 3, and now we have like Bella, and so they're definitely like introducing us to more characters. I mean, they have like more money now and stuff, but yeah, there wasn't Ruby in this episode, but they have Bella. And so they kind of introduced a character that we haven't really seen before. Is like we kind of have, you know, Supernatural hunters, monsters, or just regular civilians, right? But now we have like someone who's like aware of the supernatural world, and like she takes advantage of it. And I feel like they were like, okay, like this kind of makes sense in the context of what this episode's about. I feel like they just wanted to have like another female character that was like something extra that they could play with, that wasn't a demon, I guess. And so that's why like they can't do these things with Ruby. And I guess they can't do it with Jo either, just because like of her hunter background and everything that happened with that, and they already got all that hate mail. I feel like at this time they must have gotten that hate mail about Dean and Jo, they, you know, Supernatural not making it happen. So I guess there wasn't like a monster of the week, it's like an object. And technically, is this our first object? And I think it's like, when I'm thinking like, you know, analyzing this, I'm like, wow, this is our first like non-monster. It's like an object. Like that's kind of crazy. Wow, I'm like kind of stunned and shocked right now. So there was that, and then there was no saving the girl element. There was a Sam element, like saving the brother element. And I always feel like, you know, saving the girl element like ruins the episode. Well, it doesn't ruin per se, but like help, you know, makes the episode less than, and then, you know, not having anything be saved is kind of like whatever. I mean, there's always someone to be saved, but you know what I'm talking about. But when it's something like saving one of the brothers, it's like, it's so good. But it's also something where it was like, it wasn't, they were kind of lighthearted. They weren't like that concerned. He was just like, don't scratch your nose, just stay in this room. And so it was like still funny. Like he like, you know, he gets on fire, and like those guys are after him. And so it's not like, it's not too dense or like too scary. And like, I think that's also why the episode, you know, is good. Like we sometimes have those emotional episodes where they're so worried about each other, and like, oh, one of them is dying. So technically this one, like one of them was kind of dying. Like it was kind of about saving him, but they did it in such a lighthearted and great way. I feel like there's probably so much more to say about this episode, but I'm gonna end it here because this is a long video. But yeah, like I feel like you could, if you want to use this episode to show people, you know, to get people into Supernatural, like you can use this episode. I feel like there's still issues with it, which is why it wasn't be so great, but maybe I couldn't come up with any other episodes. So if you have like ideas of episodes to show your friends to get them to Supernatural, like comment below. But yeah, anyway, thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and bye.